Hello guys, it's TZK and today I'm going to be going over my Killing Floor 2 settings. And just the basic settings that I like to use for Killing Floor 2. I actually got asked about this a couple of days ago in my comment section, so I thought I'd make a video on it just showing off like what I use basically. And I'm not going to be going over video or audio settings because it depends on the person. Some people like a certain thing louder, or people have different graphics cards, so your video and audio really depends on your computer you have or console. But I'm mainly going to be focusing on the gameplay aspect, like field of view, controls and stuff. And speaking of FOV, field of view, one of the most important things I would recommend is field of view. I typically have this about 120 to 125. And FOV basically means you can see more on your screen at once. If you have it set all the way down, you're not going to be able to see anything, and it can be a little bit difficult. Whereas if you have your FOV set high, you can actually see more stuff around you, which means you can easily plan which Zeds you're going to kill next or how you can escape. I would normally recommend 120 to 125, but if you want to go a bit lower, then that's fine. So of course, the higher the FOV, the more stuff you can see. I do typically have mine at 120. And in terms of controls, I do keep it to default, to be honest. I do have the standard WASD, space. I don't actually have any keybind for sprint, because I actually use the toggle option. So if you go into gameplay on settings, there's an option to toggle to sprint. This basically means when you press shift once, you'll sprint until you stop. Whereas if you disable this, you basically have to hold the sprint button. And I much prefer just pressing it once and then you can run. But if you prefer holding it down and running, then that's fine. Another thing with controls, I do tend to keep them close to the left hand side. So I play on PC a lot, which means I do normally use the left hand side of the keyboard where W, A, S and D are. I have the V as bash and B for giving dosh. And that's because the V and B are literally above your spacebar, so you literally just go and move your thumb upwards. It's just stuff like that which makes it easier to interact with everyone in game, which again is why I normally have everything towards the left, because I don't normally use my right hand side of the keyboard, and if I have to press something like I, O or P on the other side, it's going to be a bit annoying because I can't really reach that far because my other hand is on the mouse. So it's just more easier for me to basically have every control key binded to the left hand side rather than the right hand side of the keyboard, because of course nobody has three hands. So it will be easier to have everything closer together. Another thing I'd recommend is adjusting your mouse sensitivity to where you like it. It really depends on what mouse you're using. I use the Logitech G502, which actually does have two buttons on the side of it, which means you can adjust the sensitivity there. But most mice won't have that, so you do have to adjust your sensitivity. And again, just like video and audio, it just depends like what type of mouse you're using. Another important thing as well is the friendly HUD scale. This basically means as a medic you can see your other player's health a lot easier. If you have it set all the way down to 0.25, you can't really see it that well. So make sure you do have it quite high up. I normally have it about 1, but my word of advice with friendly HUD scale, make sure you adjust it to where you can see other people's health and armor. That way if you play as medic, you can actually see who needs healing. And with multiplayer as well, people tend to split up a lot, which means if you're trying to see player health from a distance as a medic, it can be a bit difficult if it's really small. But again, I like to crank it all the way up to 1, just so I can see everybody, see who needs healing. Another thing as well, you've also got a load of options at the bottom of friendly HUD. So you've got a show crosshair option, weapon quick select, show Z kill ticker. All these options don't really matter. You can toggle them on and off if you want to. It really depends on your preference. But for me, the most important thing is toggle to sprint. I would always keep it on, because just like I mentioned before, it basically allows you to sprint by just pressing one button rather than having to hold down the sprint button. It just makes it much easier for me. But again, if you prefer holding down the sprint button, you do that. Also, if you're somebody who struggles with aim, with sharpshooter or gunslinger, you can use show crosshair. But yeah, again, all these other options apart from toggle to sprint, you can basically toggle them on and off if you want to. They're just other ways to play, and if you prefer prefer it, then that's fine. I would recommend you actually have a play around with these options, just see if you like them or not. It really depends per person what you like. Some people might actually like the show welder and inventory option. And yeah, that is it basically. That is all of the Killing Floor 2 controls. It's very straightforward actually. I would mainly recommend FOV and the friendly HUD scale option over anything, but of course you can toggle the game to how you like it. Most of the options really do depend on what type of console you have or what type of playstyle you like, but these are the settings which I typically use. I would strongly recommend a higher FOV. I would also recommend toggle to sprint, that way you don't have to hold it down, but again it really depends on what you like to play as. This is just some of the stuff which I like to do, and each person may be different. If you have any more questions or want to see anything else on Killing Floor 2, do let me know. Don't forget to like, subscribe, join Discord if you're new, and I'll see you in the next video.